not, we won't hear them, so.
We will start the meeting. Roll call.
Neil Johnson,
Here.
Greg Collier,
Here.
Andrew Barker,
Here.
Joel Gardner,
Here.
Steve Smith,
Yes.
Bill Schoonover,
Yes.
Greg Willoughby.
Here.
I'd like to say, Greg chaired the meeting last month, and I've asked him to go ahead and chair today since he's already familiar with this discussion where he's at. I wasn't here. You weren't here, Joel. I don't think Andrew was here. So that'll kind of cut through some shades that we don't have to revisit. So I'll turn it over to Greg.
Okay. So I'll just give a quick recap, I guess, of the short version of what went on at the last meeting that you guys missed. Other than usual business, we had Wyman brought to us that we were going to vote on the detention pond, and a little discussion amongst the commissioners that were present. Asked a city engineer to visit with us and couldn't get any answers really from that. And so I asked Rose to contact the mayor. The mayor came, visited with us, but kind of impromptu and wasn't comfortable in, I guess, fielding the questions at that point. So we decided to table it, come back for this called meeting, and I think probably have some discussion, and I think we're set to vote today, if that's where,
I hope so.
where we leave.
Yeah, hope so.
Okay. So that being said, so before we get into that, if there's any comments from the audience, we give about 5 minutes total. So if anybody's got anything to present to the commission. Okay. So with that being said, Mayor, do you want to start us?
Sure, I'll be glad to. And thank you all for giving us this time, a special meeting. It's very important that we get this addressed, and hopefully we'll be able to do that today. There's been a discussion for a long time about acquiring more property to the west of the airport. At the time, there was I think a 10 or 12 acre piece that we thought we've talked about for years, and but it's off the table now. It's somebody else bought it. So we moved forward, and the city council, we've got a couple of council members here too, and the city council approved acquiring, I think it's 3 parcels that front on Emma. And I remember distinctly the purposes. We've talked for a long time about the possibility of a second terminal, an executive terminal. We've also talked about access from Emma to the airport. So, so those are, we moved forward with having those properties appraised and purchasing those properties. So in the discussions on let me back up and just make sure everybody understands that the reason we're pushing for the detention plan is because we're working with FTN, who's working also with Garver, and our engineering department. We have an opportunity here, and it's really a necessity to remove downtown properties out of the floodplain. We have, and we can do that with detention around the airport. That's vital for projects and development to continue downtown. There's 2 projects I know of right now, one more imminent than the other, that depend completely on that property being taken out of the floodplain. So we started the process of a plumber, which is, tell me again, Brad.
Conditional letter of map revision.
There we go. And that's a process that then the maps would be revised. Once the detention is designed, the maps would be revised. And we've been told, I think by FTN, that they believe the maps, the newly revised maps, would take all of downtown. It would reduce the floodplain to within the banks of Spring Creek downtown, which opens up a lot of land for development that's currently in the floodplain. So it's very important that we do this. We started looking at that. The council has been aware of that. The council actually approved the funding for the study with FTN, and so that's where we're at now. So we knew that detention was going to have to take place somewhere down there. Now, the property owners who purchased I'm going to call it 12 acres. I don't remember exactly. For some reason, I've got 12 in mind. Just west of the airport. I've met with those property owners. They expressed a willingness to perhaps allow us to do some of the detention on their property. And I think that's still a possibility in the future. But it's not a possibility right now because they don't know what their plans are for that piece of property. And for us to be able to determine that and be able to say for sure that we're going to use part of their property for detention, we're just not there yet. And I don't know when we can get there, but it won't be as soon as we need to be able to get there to get this plumber going. So what we've shown you is a design that at that point, I just said, we need to put this on. This has been a few weeks ago. I said, we just need to put that on the existing airport property, the detention, knowing, and I think I've expressed to each of you, knowing that if there are developments in the future concerning a terminal, and I don't think this body's even settled on whether a second terminal is what we need or not, but a terminal or Emma access could be addressed at a later date, even if we move forward with the detention where it is now. So this removes no future options from the table. But to not do this, basically what we're doing is delaying some significant development that we believe is going to happen downtown for something that we have no funding for, something we have no plans for. And that just to me does not seem the reasonable way to go about this. So I hope you'll approve this plan that that utilizes existing airport property to do the detention and get our plumber going and get this floodplain, the maps revised for downtown. And I'll be happy to answer any questions or comments or address anything that you want to address.
What were the funding sources for the purchase of the properties?
Our CIP fund.
100% CIP?
I believe that's right, isn't it, Lon?
Yes. Okay, very good.
So I have a couple of comments, questions, I guess. Some of the same discussion that we've had, actually, Mayor, but my concern is you're saying potentially down the road we might be able to do this. This meaning put in an access road, put in a second terminal.
Right.
And I can't speak for the commission, I can speak for myself. I have difficulty with that not being black and white to be able to say you will be able to do this and here's how you'll be able to do this. When in looking at that property, first of all, this has been difficult for us as a commission because we've been looking at this property for many, many years for that purpose of putting access road in, putting a terminal there. So that's
You're talking about the property we've now acquired, or are you talking about the 12 acres?
No, the property
now out of our control?
that we acquired, off of Emma
Okay.
there, okay, where 3 houses were on it.
Right.
That was our initial plan, was to buy that property, be able to use that for access road, potentially to get to a second terminal as well.
But you would still need the 12 acres behind it.
I don't think we would need the 12 acres behind it. That's never been in our thought process.
It
Oh, I
wasn't
thought it
part of
was.
our original.
Yeah, we
the
talked
12
about it
acres
because
we
it was
had
supposed
to. Yeah.
But then once we determined that we were going to purchase the front 10 acres, that was never in discussion. To my knowledge, that was never in discussion.
It was determined there was enough property with these three to do what we had in mind.
An access road,
No,
Not a terminal.
To do the terminal, to do a transit terminal.
Greg, I guess my point was, and I guess you're asking for something black and white. I've been clear that I support an access road. I think that's important. I'm not quite as clear on the terminal, although I'm not opposed to it. I'm just not sure we need a second terminal. I'm not sure that's the best use of resources that we don't have at all right now. So we don't know when that could happen. And I don't know how much more concrete I could be about a plan that's just out there somewhere. I'm not going to say I could support something that we don't know what it is yet. But what I'm saying is that this plan, this detention plan, does not remove any of those options. That's my point.
Okay. So then, in response to that, I would say the property that we have that you're stating for the detention pond is where,
Yes.
where you want to put the detention pond.
Right.
I don't see why that has to be priority one versus, and I don't know the other property owners, I've not discussed this with anybody. The creek is running right behind their property. We want it green space is what I was told. That one potentially is going to be green space. I was also told the detention pond can be green space, maybe even put soccer fields on that detention pond. How is that not a good fit to move that to their property to be able to put the detention pond if it's going to double as green space anyway?
I'm not saying it's not a good fit. What I'm saying is they've not agreed to do that. And we need to move forward. What I'm saying is that could come into play later, but we don't know that. It's not our property. That's the simple answer.
In our discussions, you and I spoke about if we did determine at some point to move forward with a terminal, that access could still happen across the detention area, which wouldn't rule out the use of our 10 acres then. Because we got to have a taxiway, right, no matter what, to get over there. So if we can still do that, once this is done, other than losing some frontage there, right, that we would have had between the 10 acres and where the creek runs right now, the way I see it, we still retain use of that 10 acres. Now, it may take some mods, obviously, that it may cost us more money because now we have to either move some small piece of the detention pond over to the east side or have our neighbors to the west side agree to use some space there so that we still get our volumes. But it is still certainly a possibility for us as far as I can see. And it therefore doesn't ruin our purchase of the 10 acres. Is that-
Last week, there was a comment made that the proposed position of the detention pond would pretty well eliminate the possibility of a terminal building on Emma. I'm
Who
hearing.
made that discussion? Who made that point? Because I didn't.
Wyman did.
Oh, it was during the.
It was during, yeah, it was during.
What would have to happen?
Yeah.
What would have to happen is either at some expense for if there's a terminal building, move forward with a terminal building, on that Emma frontage, we'd obviously have to either box over the detention for a taxiway, for access from the taxiway to the terminal, or that portion would have to be filled in, and then additional detention be either placed at the back of the neighboring property or on the east, a small portion on the east side of the runway to make up for what we fill in. That can all still be done.
But we'd have to do that anyway.
You've
We'd
got
have to
drainage
do
there
that anyway to
anyway.
go across the creek that's
You've got
there right
drainage
now.
there anyway.
To be completely honest.
We tend to keep focusing back on the terminal and the development first. But I remember the very first thing that came up was safety. Birds, ducks, geese.
Right.
that kind of thing. That was the very first issue that came up when we talked about this.
That's a very valid concern.
Now, if any of you watched the president of Boeing, CEO of Boeing lately, on the news, red flags came up and they certified an airplane and they had people crashed and killed. Our first concern was an accident caused by ducks, geese, and I talked to a man the other day, counted 20 geese on the south end of the airport while water was standing there.
Yeah,
20 geese on the south end of the airport while water was standing there.
I saw them.
I walked out in my backyard, my creek floods. I walked out there. I had geese flying over low clouds. And I said, geese land in the neighbor next door. It's a safety concern for me. The more I think about it, the more I'm concerned. We have knowledge of the possibility, and we're saying we're going to expand the probability of something. Now, we've had an unusually wet year.
Are we
No
expanding
doubt
the
about that.
possibility of that, or are we actually making it better?
What I'm saying is we're making it, I'm not sure. I'm really struggling with this because
right now, that's a pretty wet spot. And if we pave the bottom of this, then it
It
could
doesn't show to be
significantly...
paved, does it?
Do what?
It doesn't show to be paved, the bottom of the detention pond, does it?
they're just going to have
My
crap dirt
understanding was
there.
the center,
Swale down the middle.
Yeah, there'll be a concrete swale down the middle.
I think that could help us.
I think it'll empty out faster than it does now.
I mean, to be completely honest, if we pave the bottom of that, then that helps channel all that water in that grassy wetland. I think it could help us, because it does get really marshy over there right now.
And I did see during the last rain, I did see a ton of geese on the south side of the airport. And my only concern with having the detention pond is that it will attract some animals.
There will be some.
But
there's no doubt.
will that now become one of those line items that we have to put in on our budget for the airport that we have to mitigate? Is that something that the city would say, they'll put that as a line item for their budget and mitigate the geese or the ducks or whatever? And I don't care if you hire a dog or get the BB gun sharpshooting team out there. Either way, just so long as it's not an additional line item that the airport encumbers for their annual finances. That's my concern with the mitigation of the animals. And then I will just, I asked my original question for a specific purpose. This is city CIP money. Even though we spearheaded the purchasing of the property, guys, it is still the city property. And the needs, I come from a long line of looking at the needs of the many versus the needs of the few. And the needs of the many, in this case, again, outweigh the needs of the few. The airport is a portion of the city, which is greater. And we are beholden to the airport, but in a greater sense, we're beholden to the city of Springdale.
So do you landlock yourself?
We're already landlocked.
We literally can't get more landlocked than we are
Yeah,
right now.
we are already landlocked. And I can't say that there's a perfect solution all the way around here, but if we're going to see anything within the city of, I won't say anything, if we're going to see the city of Springdale grow, which I've been here 7 years now, I've been waiting to see this growth and development happen every day that I've been here. Because I see the potential in downtown. We got to be a part of the solution as the airport commission, in my opinion, not part of the problem. I understand the concerns with a drainage pond, but I do believe that Garber did tell us last time that we've got a number of hours that this thing has got to be drained by. 48 hours, is it, Andrew?
48.
So it's got to be drained within 48 hours. So that hopefully helps mitigate the burden and the safety issues. Yeah, it's not the perfect thing that we would be looking for. Yes, we might have to spend a little bit of money. We, city, might have to spend a little bit more money when we look at developing our terminal and our perfect attraction scenario for the airport.
Those are
But
issues we face already, though.
Those are issues we
on a daily
face
basis.
already, and I say I'm going to say green light this project for no other reason other than I know that I'm beholden to the greater group of the city.
Well, and to be completely fair, if we bring more business into downtown, look, I've grown up on this airport. I've literally spent every weekend I can possibly remember of my life at this airport. And there was a time where there was a whole lot more traffic and a whole lot more aviation going on that airport. And it was a much less appealing place to go than we've made it in the last 10 or 20 years. I don't think that the appeal of getting to and from the airport is our biggest concern. Yes, it's important. And yes, I can see very many opportunities where development on that northwest corner could be a great thing.
Yep.
From maybe it's a terminal, maybe it's a second ramp, maybe it's additional hangars. There's a lot of opportunities there. And I don't think this kills those opportunities. It's a different picture than maybe we saw before, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad picture. In fact, there could be, and I'll say could because I'm not completely sold either way, but there could be advantages to us to the work that would happen on that detention pond with helping get rid of some of the wetland that's there right now. So I agree. I think that we have to look at not just the direction that we want to see the airport go, but the direction we want to see the city go as a whole. I like what's going on downtown. There's a whole lot. Revitalization maybe isn't even the word. This is things that we've never seen downtown. This is new growth, new business. It's not replacing anything. So I think there's huge opportunities there that maybe bring more people into our airport with no changes to it. Personally.
Well, it's no secret that this plan has been out there for several years because it's been on a master plan. The FAA has visited it. They like the ideas.
Yep.
And at the time we were looking at purchasing all the
The whole
parcels,
block. Yep.
we were going through the process of getting the appraisals on it when these people came in and bought it.
Yep.
We had no control over that. My question is, we all know who bought the property, and do they own any of this property downtown that's going to be developed? It's going to be enhanced by this. Is that part of the overall picture?
What I can tell you for certain is the development I'm talking about has nothing to do with those
But
properties.
is there other development down there that they are involved
That's in the floodplain?
That will
I don't
hold.
know of any.
Oh, okay. Well, that was the question I had. I'm not saying it
About
is.
it being in
But
the
I don't know what all they
specifically.
own.
I understand.
I'll be first to tell you, I don't know
I
all they own.
understand, but I'm just saying, if they had a dog in this
Obviously.
fight, it looks to me like it would
It would behoove them to share some of that with us.
And I think chances are very good that part of that property will be used for detention. And that can all be worked out and addressed.
Which helps free
But
up
we-
some of that
but we
northwest
can't-
corner for us.
We don't have those answers right now, and we need to move forward getting the floodplain
So
fixed.
we would have to move forward under the assumption that it'll never be done, because we don't have.
That's true.
Correct.
That's true.
So
That is something.
That's
we
true.
need to
That's,
weigh in.
that's fair.
That's right.
And I think we still have all the options we had before.
And I'll just go this much. I've been a champion of this transit terminal on Emma for years, and we were even talking about it before we bought the land on the south years ago. I mean, it started 15, 20 years ago.
Yep.
And we have a unique airport. We've got one sitting right in the middle of town. Nowhere else can you go and find that. I've flown in many, many small cities. This is very unique, and we are proud of it. We should be proud of it.
We should be.
And I
Yeah,
don't
absolutely.
agree that it's deteriorated in the last 20 years. I think it's been enhanced. I've been there since it was a 3,000-foot chip and seal runway since 1972, and it's been improved through those years. And keep in mind, too, the city allowed that property to be sold over on the east side, which was a big mistake, and we're still reaping the benefits of that today. It's a big negative, but it should have never happened. So regardless how this goes, I think that we should keep in mind that we have to assume that this transit terminal is gone. It will never be.
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair at all.
Well, with what we have before us today, with any assurances, I feel like that we're pretty well slammed
You
the door.
can get the other detention you need. If we don't access, if we're not able in the future to access the south end of that property to the west that we don't own, we can still get the detention we need, I'm being told, on the east side with a small section on the east side of the runway.
I understand the timing is of essence, and I can certainly appreciate that. But we were told 2 years ago, or three, when it was first presented, that there were other options. And it seems like, I was wondering how much exploration had ever been done on the other options, other than, or did we just assume we're going this route and this is the way it's gonna be?
If it's a no vote, what's plan B?
Pardon me?
I said if it's a no vote, what is plan B?
We'll have to utilize more of their airport property somehow,
What do you mean?
as it stands right now. We'd have to look at some on the east side. We're still gonna do some on the west side. There's no way around
You're
it.
saying basically the airport is the only place that's available.
That's what I'm being told
There's,
by
there's
FDM.
nothing else available.
There may be some areas in the future, Brad, along Spring Creek, but no,
Not that provides the.
not that provides the detention we need. I was thinking to add, but still, we're not gonna be able to get away from detention on the west side of the airport. You've already got drainage running through there.
Is it a cost effectiveness issue? Is it
You've already got
most
land there, to
cost-effective
Steve's
to do it
point,
there?
you can't use. I'm sorry.
Is it a cost effectiveness issue? Obviously, it's most cost effective to do it one place, one time, rather than 6 places.
It obviously is. If we go back and adjust later, whether we have to box over part of the detention or whether we have to fill some of it in and create some somewhere else, yeah, it's probably gonna cost a little more, but it won't cost as much as delaying our floodplain revisions.
Because there are
Yeah.
projects in planning right
Right.
now that need that floodplain in order to be completed.
But those aren't city projects, those are.
No, those
Private.
are private projects, and they could go away tomorrow. I mean, to be fair, I mean, I don't have a written guarantee.
So,
And you're not at liberty
But
to
they're
discuss in
taxpayer
any
revenue
detail what
increasing
those-
opportunities for the city.
so in discussions there on the east side, how big of an area, can you talk, Brad, on that?
We don't know. We brought that originally and were told by the commission that there's a waste site.
A land site, a landfill.
Right, we can't go to the north,
Site-
right?
Site on the west
The north
side.
end is where the landfill was, isn't that accurate?
We would have to investigate each drill and see how much area is available.
Brad, is it fair, this is probably overly simplistic, but that's what I need. Is it fair to assume that whatever detention we could create on the east side would reduce the need on the west side the same amount?
Yes, it's not necessarily a one-to-one, because the one we're talking about now is a tributary to Spring Creek, and the other one would be a portion of Spring Creek, so they've modeled a little bit differently. But I asked that question of FTN
So,
this week.
so my point is, if we can move forward, then in the future, whether, if this commission decides and somehow we get funded for a second terminal, or if the commission decides, no, we're going to spend that money on our existing terminal, we're going to create access off inlet. Either way, if something has to be changed in our detention, I think with secondary access, it wouldn't have to be. But with a terminal, you're going to have to get a way to get to it. So that's a scenario where you'd have to either box over the existing or the new detention, or you would have to fill a portion of it in and create more somewhere else, either on the east side of the runway or on the south end of the property west of the airport. But we don't have those answers.
If you put that on the east side, then your safety concern gets enhanced, because then you get both
It's
sides.
the same, yeah, that's from a safety standpoint,
Yeah.
it doesn't change that.
Well, from a
That's
safety
become the focus of
Yeah.
mine
But from a
lately.
safety standpoint, Greg, okay, you got geese on the south end. Well, that doesn't have anything to do with any of this. And you've got geese.
I know.
Well-
If we put them on you've already got water, you've already got a wet area that doesn't empty out well at all right now, on where we're talking about putting this detention that would be required to empty out within 48 hours. Geese don't, yeah.
From that
If
standpoint.
I was an expert on geese, we wouldn't have any in Murphy Park. So
I-
don't hold. If I knew how to get rid of them.
And I understand that too.
Yeah.
And one of the things that caused me to focus back on our original concern was what I observed this week, quite honestly.
Yeah.
We had low clouds.
Yeah.
We had geese going over my house in the yard at 200 feet. The most lowest approach into Springdale Airport is to the south on the ILS,
Yeah.
where you're going to put the ponds, and the geese are flying by at 250 feet. And you pop out of the clouds, and I've done that. I hit a goose.
Right.
I know what that's like. That way it gets your attention in a hurry when you put a hole in a wing about this size.
I'm sure.
You know, so that became my concern because I observed that, and I was thinking, this is an issue for me, and I realized we got the thing. Of course, what Andrew said about the concrete, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
Concrete and draining
It's
it,
a trickle channel.
Yeah.
yeah. It's kind of like the Los Angeles River.
No.
I'm jesting.
You go down the middle of the.
Smaller version
Yeah.
of it.
Right.
Right.
Narrow
Yeah.
trickle channel that takes in that last bit of water
Yeah.
and runs it down.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with that, but it won't be a concrete bottom. is what I think.
But-
No, I didn't mean the whole bottom.
But I wanted to ask another question. I'll go back to, you mentioned access.
Right.
And not having that. Where would you envision anything getting through from Memba? You showed me park and.
Yeah, it would have to, it would have to work, it would have to work, we're still gonna have to work with that property owner.
You still have to go through that
To
property.
get access, yeah.
And what about
Yeah.
the school and the stuff? Somebody told me that school's probably not gonna be there. I was one of the city council members actually that I was talking to.
I can't imagine that.
And he said that he envisioned if this property develops and stuff, that school will end up going away.
I don't,
That
who
was
knows?
a little
I'd be
shock to me,
surprised.
but
I'd be surprised if the school went away, but I do think that area will change significantly.
yeah, and he said that whole thing in 10 years probably won't even exist
Yeah.
from Cottle all the way south.
I think if residential kicks up downtown the way the development seems to be leaning and planning, I think if we don't have that school, we'll need a different one. I mean,
Well, if residential picks up, what's the noise going to do for the residents of an airport close by? I've also
I guess
lived in
they-
places where residential
I guess they
development
know that's
closed
where they
airports.
move in, yeah. I guess.
You know,
It's not that kind of an airport.
no, it wasn't. This was Dallas North Airport. I used to live near there.
Also,
It doesn't exist today.
Also, something we touched on, probably didn't touch, I think James brought it up in the last meeting, but the improvements to Park and Emma, the improvements to Powell and Cottle will also beautify that and will help spur a better experience using our existing entrance to the airport. It's not going to be perfect for a long time, but it will help. And it does make that a little more of a clean shot from 412 all the way to Huntsville.
What's that plan for that property? I noticed they've been doing some dirt work right across from the old entrance of the airport. That 8 or 10 acres or whatever it was there, 15.
Don't hold me to this, Neil, but because I didn't even know it had been approved yet, but I know they were looking at multifamily there.
So they're going to do just more and more of that rather than
Well, I think that's
on
what,
Powell.
as I said, don't hold me to it. I know it was being looked at that at one time, but I can't tell you for sure, because I haven't seen
But
any work.
that property's not in some district that's going to dictate any specific.
No, it's not in the form-based codes for downtown. That stops at Quant and Cottle.
Yeah, okay.
I want to go back to, Mayor, if we can. I'm struggling to get past this.
I want to help you.
And obviously you can't answer for those property owners in the 12 acres.
Right.
It seems to me it does not make sense to move forward with this detention pond in the area that we're talking about with the potential plan of moving part of it later at an additional expense, when feasibly we could go to them now and say, are you willing to look at this as a detention pond for these reasons?
We've pretty well done that And the answer was not no. It was, we'll work with you on that. But Greg, I don't know how long that'll take. And I think there's more likely to be other money to help with additional expense later if we continue working on that relationship and that plan.
Well, it would certainly allow for everybody to get what they want in this thing, looks to me like. I mean, the way this particular suggested plan was designed. Is there a way that we could table this for a month or 2 weeks or whatever, get them to come in and address the commission? Would they be willing to come in and talk to us and let us get a feel for what they're thinking on it? Is that possible? Or?
I don't know. I can't speak for them.
I understand,
whether they do that or not.
So wouldn't it be something you want to suggest?
Greg, Brad, explain the timeline one more time for the Clover and why we've been trying to move this forward.
As I understand it, the financial timeline for some of the downtown development needed us to submit the Clover a month ago, so we're already a month late in the process. And the longer, every minute you spend delaying adds to the delay.
That's why we asked y'all to call a special meeting, you know, and I know nobody likes to get rushed and nobody likes to get in a hurry. But sometimes the cost of delay is more than the additional cost later of adjusting what was done.
Can I ask a question? How long is it gonna take to build said detention pond?
Got an idea?
I guess 6 months.
I mean, it's dirt work, guys.
But there's a lot of dirt to move.
There's a lot of dirt work.
So,
Actually, there's a
But
lot
that-
of the hole is already there.
Yeah, and that's what I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
no, you're good. So if it takes 6 months to build it, and in that 6 months, our friends with the adjoining property say, hey, yeah, you guys can use some of our land, is there anything that precludes us from modifying our plan and making
No.
that happen?
No, I think that's what we're saying. We would make.
So before it's built even, that's what I'm saying. In that time frame, before everything's done, if they go, hey, you know what, we've decided that we're good with that, is that,
But again, you're living on assumptions rather than
well,
moving forward.
Sometimes you have
we,
to.
we only have an assumption right now that they would let or not let us
You
use it.
can move the whole process that far down the road.
And I don't mean to be a smart aleck with that assumptions word, but we're working on assumptions that we're gonna get any federal funding from the FAA or any CIP funding for us to go ahead and build the terminal too. I mean, for us to do our growth and development, we've been hoping and assuming that all of this stuff would fall into line. And this is the only thing right now that I can say that is actually being developed on the airport property that is of significance to the city as a whole.
I think that terminal with FAA's long-term funding plan.
And it took 8 years to buy that property down on
And
the south end.
they were pretty, from what I recollect, was they were pretty sure. They were encouraging us,
To do it.
they encouraged us to buy all the land that we could
Yes,
buy
sir.
no matter what. Because you can't expand the airport without the additional
Yep.
land. And Springdale's not really small. You can't find a place that's better suited to move the airport to. And it just.
But does this actually rule that out?
I don't think it does.
Maybe our friends to the west would be willing to sell us a piece of their land for additional ramp space, or, I mean,
Well, there again, you guys keep going on everything on assumptions.
Right.
well, but we're assuming that, look, it may not be in the budget to build that terminal. I mean, it's on the 10-year or whatever, but that doesn't mean funding materializes. You're assuming just as much on the terminal as we are on anything else.
I'm assuming that the demand's not gonna shrink. There's still a waiting list of 30
That's
people
right.
for hangars. There's always been a waiting list for hangars. We've never had a problem.
If we want to build hangars, we can build hangars on the east side today.
No. I don't
Why?
think So the FAA's.
Wait,
not gonna
no.
listen.
Not the type that they want, the corporate type. there's one of the bigger companies in town right now would love to have rebuilt a bigger terminal. And there's no, we don't have a place for it, that he was,
Right.
and,
But
Yeah,
we-
we're-
I
we
would
as
argue,
the-
I would argue otherwise, a 100 by 100 hangar is still very, very buildable.
We as the airport, without the help of the city, what do we have that we can invest in the terminal in the next 5 years, financially? Do we have our 20% or 50%? If it's a 50-50 or an 80-20 or an 85-15, do we have our percent? Without the help of the city?
There's only one place for us to get that money, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
the terminal funding is not eligible for FAA funding.
Access road is.
Access roads
Access
and,
ramps and-
aprons and
That's right.
taxiways and things
That's
of
right.
this nature.
But those are things associated with it. So now you've just, now we've just said that we've got to have more than what.
The access road is eligible, but the only way I got them to fund that one that was built was I told them that people trying to get to the terminal building were going through the gate and driving on the taxiway. And it made it a safety issue. And they funded it when, I mean, it was a safety issue.
Well, the access road to, if it was done on Emma, would be negligible. You just have entrance in all Emma, basically. And taxiway would be, taxiway parking apron would be the biggest FAA expense, plus acquisition, land acquisition. And our purpose was to bridge this acquisition until FAA could fund it. And so, as you well know, that comes periodically. But I can certainly see the need for detention. That's been my history, my work history is land development. And I understand it. And I don't want to use the word disturb, but 2 years ago, we were told there's other options, and then we come in, well, this is the only option.
Every time, quite honestly, Brad came in, it was worse. What he proposed got more and more on the airport.
Yeah. And,
It never, and it was always, we're starting tomorrow, kind of mentality. That kind of bothered me. But the safety issues, you're addressing those.
It's just gonna
as far
take
as
a
I'm
while.
concerned, you know. And that became a major thing for me because.
Amazing. Absolutely, safety is the most major to me.
Yeah, and I know popping out of the clouds at 250
You
feet
bet.
and
A face full of geese is not what you
well,
want.
that's how we got that land on the south end, was making the case with the birds. You remember the blackbirds?
Oh, it
Yeah.
used to be way worse down there.
Horrible.
Now they'll move the high lines on the east side, but
Right.
but that's only a few, a short time of the year.
Well, if y'all approve this, we'll work with you in the future trying to get it, minimize your concerns as much as possible as your future plans develop. As I said, it doesn't remove any options. It might make some a little more expensive, but I also think that I think there's always the opportunity for some private money to come to the table as well. There are people who are very supportive of aviation, as you know, who are connected with downtown as well. And I can tell you that there's probably not, if there has been a meeting about downtown and me promoting downtown with a group, with the DSA, if there's ever been a meeting that I didn't say something about the importance and the unique opportunity we have with our airport being so accessible to downtown. If there's ever been a meeting I've let that slip, it's just been an oversight. I think I mention it every time. So please don't think that certainly and I don't believe the council aren't very aware of the economic impact and the importance of our airport to our downtown. I think that, but I think downtown's important to the airport too.
I think cleaning up downtown helps the airport significantly.
I know you're wanting to move yesterday. I still feel it's a disservice to not meet with them and at least present that option to them on the south side of that.
Greg, we've talked about that.
Well,
I
you
mean,
just-
I don't know what else to, yes, that's a possibility, that's all I get.
I'm not talking about building it and then potentially moving part of it over there. I'm talking about not putting it in where you're presenting it and talking to them about putting it down there.
And my decision to come and present the option that is only on airport property was my decision, based on the fact that I recognized real quickly that we weren't going to get an answer on that other property anytime very soon. That was my call, and that's why you're seeing the plan you see, is because I determined that we needed to move forward with this Clomer, and that we weren't going to be able to work out the other options as soon as we needed to.
My understanding is that they don't necessarily know 100%
Correct.
what their plans are with that property, right?
That's
Is that
accurate, yes.
Okay.
I thought that was determined that was going to be green space.
No. They bought it with the idea of green space, but they're open to other ideas. So they don't know what they're going to do. And so, as you can imagine, they're probably not going to say for sure where to put attention on that property when they don't know exactly what they're going to do with the property. So,
We're talking about the 10 acres south.
yeah, 10 or 12,
Yeah,
whatever.
whatever it is.
I think it is 10. I think 12 includes something else, but
Probably includes the front
maybe
property as
include
well.
what we want.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to talk about water standing somewhere, the south side of that 10 acres is a swamp.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if there's an ideal place
Well,
for
they're
it,
gonna have to do
again,
something there no matter what.
right.
If
And you're right
if
by
they
that
develop,
creek.
yeah, if they develop any kind of, anything besides green space or maybe a park, yeah, they're gonna have to do something anyway on the south end. And I think they recognize that. They're just not there yet, and they don't always move quickly. So,
They wanted the land because the opportunity would go away if they didn't get the land.
Right.
That's very clear.
Any more discussion?
Is there any way that we could get a commitment from you to work to see if this were under construction, that it could be moved?
We'll continue, yeah, I'll be
I mean-
happy to commit to keep having those
I
conversations.
mean, this doesn't have to,
Problem-
when you start building this stuff,
I don't know enough about the process, Greg, or Brad. You said it could start the clock over again, or whatever.
If you change the plan that's submitted in the Clomer, you start the clock over in the review process with FEMA. That's part of the issue.
And so that would
So you
impact
so you're really, what you said about doing it in the process, what you brought up, Andy, can't be done.
It can be done, but you'll reset the clock. That's what I commented when he said, "Can you do that?" I said, "Yes, but you'll reset the clock with FEMA."
I misunderstood that.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
I didn't-
What's that clock?
They're saying when we get it submitted, about 6 months review time with FEMA so far.
So if that's the case, you're saying that you really wouldn't start construction for another 6 months, because you gotta get it approved first.
Yes.
Right.
So you're looking at not moving any dirt or doing anything for 6 months.
Yes.
And then if something came up in 6 months and we weren't with it, we'd start the clock, and how's that gonna affect what you wanna do with?
It makes another 6 months.
Yeah, it would.
So you, basically, what I'm hearing is it's not as urgent as it needs to be.
No, that's not what you're hearing.
It's not, no.
It's not all what you're hearing.
Because
It
if,
needs to be submitted quickly.
Right. I think, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't think changing the design before you know what you're gonna do, I don't think that's the way to go. I think we build the detention the way it's designed right now, and then we deal with the changes we need to make when you've got something to do. When you're decided on a terminal or you decide on an access road, then we deal with that. It's a hole in the ground. It's going to cost a little more. We'll have to fill some of it in and make some somewhere else. But I don't think we can make that determination until we know what you're going to do.
Brad, could we submit both simultaneously? Is there additional cost or time that would preclude us from saying, we are going to do one of these two options, we want you to review both and pass both as acceptable? Is that something that
It
could be
would
done?
cost more money, but you could do that at the same time.
Well, if we do that, Andrew, and I wouldn't be opposed to that. I don't know, when you say more
Depends
money,
what's
depends
more
on
money.
What more money is.
$18 or $18 million,
we got
right?
3 council members there too that have to help with that. But if we do that, I think that second option, unless we can get an answer from the adjoining property owners a lot sooner than I think we can, that second option is going to be more detention on the east to save some detention on the west.
That was the question I was
Could
going
we
to ask
just do
Brad.
that?
All those, the times you came in and said there was other options, this was just the path of least resistance.
There were three
Where were the
ponds-
other,
there
where were
three
the other
ponds
options?
evaluated. Pond number 3 was in the industrial park. The extension of the turbo is going through that, so that's off the table. We're building a Bond Street through the middle of that. The other two are one on the east side, one on the west side, or a combination of the two. The most cost-effective initially was the one that's being presented. And that's what the council said, go ahead and get a design contract to design. That's what we're doing.
So the airport really is
there's
the
any
only
number
option.
of other options, but as the mayor said, you can't design what you can't if it's constantly moving.
But the airport's the only option, is what you're telling me.
Right now, the only.
So you
the
proceeded
only-
with
the only
everything.
option that will do the job.
So you went ahead and proceeded with the Coloma applications and design and
Hasn't been
everything.
made.
No, it hadn't been made. That's what we're trying to get to.
Oh, you haven't made application?
No.
No,
Damn,
we
no,
you have to have a preliminary
You can't.
design.
But
with
I realize you hadn't made the application, but you've got the documents prepared or the surveys, all the engineering done.
No,
You don't have the engineering done presented.
we have enough to do the preliminary engineering design, which goes in the flowing. We're not committing any more funding to it than we have to satisfy the development requirements at this time.
So you basically just got a 2D, you don't have a three-dimensional
Yes, it's
plan
3D.
yet.
There's enough surveying has been done, so it's a 3D hole in the ground.
Well, yeah.
Did we survey anything on the east side for that? Or did
Not
we
yet.
only do the west?
That's another option. You could survey the east side, you could drill it and determine where the old landfill is.
Does anyone know whether the landfill's north or south of the creek there?
I know it's under that existing taxiway over there, because we had issues with it when we built the building.
So our risk is that if we said, let's plan something on the east side in addition to west side to give ourselves passage easily, we may determine that the east side is not feasible.
When you dig into that, I know what's in there.
Uh-huh.
I remember.
That
There's
tank, that,
stumps, it was car bodies, stumps, everything on the side. It was just a landfill. Same thing they're having out here on
Yep.
49,
Yeah.
where the cross not open.
Yeah. So in your, so do you think that rules the east side out personally?
Personally, it depends on where it's located, but I know it's,
We'd have
James
to
may know more about
Find
it.
a spot on the east side to make it,
Well,
make part of it work.
Garver designed that. I think we had to drill that. I think Garver was engineer at the time. We had to drill that when we improved that. Originally, that taxiway was built for the county.
Yep.
And
Right.
all it was just a chip and seal. And we had to go in there and put a base on it, undercut it. We took about 4 feet out,
and
didn't
the FAA, if I remember properly, wants us to extend the east taxiway to the end of the runway.
Do you know how much work we did there with drilling and checking that east side when we did the taxiway?
2002.
If you put the bottom, you couldn't
I,
do that
I
either.
understand, but, you know,
Well, let's tell them, Brad, we're gonna, your FA plans to design on these
I'm really
taxiways.
fascinated.
yeah.
We're gonna drill to
I'm,
the
I'm,
side.
I'm really struggling. I hadn't heard about the concrete and the drainage and getting the water out of there. I hadn't heard that in the presentation anywhere. And, isn't it true that the FAA wants to extend that east taxiway all the way down to the end of the runway?
That's correct,
That's what we were
yeah.
just
That's
talking
what,
about.
when our design is planned for this summer to drill the east side along the taxiway extends, and Don Brad could easily get a few extra ones in between the taxiway and the highway, which is where this future pond could go to determine what's over there too.
And is that?
So we could lay the groundwork to expanding on the east side to give us our passage across on the west.
And that's,
As part of other stuff we're already planning.
that's a feasibility study for that taxiway, right?
Just the full design of it.
Oh, it's the full design of it. Oh, okay.
That's a pretty good option. Lets us know whether we can do anything over there or not. Yes, it costs more money to come back and add it and change it, but I mean, ultimately that's the city's money that's going to be used to help the airport do that stuff.
I can boil this down real easy, guys, and you just, it's your decision. But we can get this Clomer going, get the downtown properties removed from the floodplain, we can get development going downtown, or we can hold all that up on a plan that you don't have, to spend money you don't have.
With support we might not have from the city.
And I'm not gonna go there.
We could ask,
I
we
wouldn't
could
say-
ask,
Yeah, you might ask.
Council members.
I don't mean that
No, I know.
to
I
you,
know.
but
I don't
We poll
want any of this to
council
sound threatening at all.
we can shoot ourselves in both feet if we
Yeah.
want. That's a fine choice.
I just hope you'll see it, and timing is not always perfect on everything. Sometimes you gotta make the best decision you can, at the time. You have to make it. And I guess my main message is that if plans come together in the future for a terminal or for access, we've not taken away that possibility.
Can I ask it, what's the plan on Powell down south towards 412? Have you got any idea what's going to happen in down
No,
there?
I think, Greg, I think that'll hinge on development. I do think you'll see it change. I think as you see, I think you'll probably see it first on Park and along that area, Park to Cottle, but simply because it's part of the master planned downtown area. But I think with the two intersection improvements we're doing, I think Neil had noticed some construction. I hadn't been down there in a few weeks, so I didn't know if they're doing something there already. I think it's multifamily, not sure, but I think you'll see more development on Powell, the south end. But I think it's going to be slower to come. You got some big industries there. You got the pallet plant,
Right.
that stuff. That's all going to be controlled by development and the private market. City doesn't have any plans beyond the two intersection improvements we're talking about.
Steve, anything?
Well, I can say this, if we're gonna vote today, there's not gonna be any winners in this,
No, it's,
in this.
it's pretty tough.
And I can speak for myself, from the airport standpoint. I want to do the right thing for everybody. I mean, and that's impossible. I understand that. But we are beholden to the city, any funding that the airport has, matching funds and things of this nature. We feel like that we've been good stewards of the airport for years and years and years. We've not been a burden financially on the city, I don't believe. I think been about as self-supporting as any airport can be. We can either say no and cause delay and will probably never be built, or we can say yes with faith in the fact that maybe we could get some additional support from the city than what we've had in the past. I mean, we haven't asked for it. We've gotten about everything we've asked for. You'll have to admit that. There is another option that we haven't even discussed here today that we looked at for access to that terminal because it's very costly. We even set aside the right of way down there on that property we bought to the south for a street. But what happens when we looked at it, we put a development in there, we put a taxiway. It would require going under that taxiway and taking one sizable hangar out to access it from the south.
That's on the south side.
Coming off 412. Right.
And unfortunately, we don't have time to look and see what the cost that would be, going forward. It also would allow us to put some new hangars down on that south end. So I'm sitting here knowing what I would like to do, knowing what my business mind's telling me to do. I'm just wondering if that's going to be counterproductive, because we all got to work together. And
My heart keeps saying no, but my mind says that maybe it's the best thing to do.
You can see where this is taking us, Mayor.
I can fully appreciate that, and I wish it hadn't come so fast, and as I've told each of you, I wish I'd have done a better job in keeping everybody in the loop.
It's not just a loop thing, it's just that, honestly, the big thing is that we're worried about the well-being of the airport and the well-being of the city. And it puts us in a very, very difficult position because we have to choose whether to follow our hearts or
Well,
to
I mean, you
follow.
have to-
What's your favorite
And
child?
It's tough. It's tough.
well,
That's easy.
we've been asked to keep a 20-year plan out there.
That's right.
And we've done the
That's
best
right.
we can, and you work toward that. And this is definitely one of our main.
But this doesn't derail a 20-year plan.
But we have had support from the city to continue on that 20-year plan.
Well,
And-
I think sometimes
I
we
think
don't
we
get enough support.
expect that.
Enough support from the city. We're showing our 20-year plan, but we're not hearing what their 20-year plan for us is.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
I mean, sometimes it's,
Well, this is going to put a hickey on the airport. There's no question about that. And it's going to be there when we're all gone, and it's still going to have that there. That's really that's a bitter pill I have to swallow.
It is.
you know,
I will
we're-
say
we're
that-
the best airport other than XNA,
Absolutely.
100%.
almost a mistake. Maybe Conway. when they
Used to
built
be.
the airport, they
I don't know, Conway used to be right in the middle of town.
Yeah, Conway's
It's a
now
nice airport.
25 minutes from town.
Yeah.
But
But now it's
there
nowhere
where
near
it's
town.
not convenient.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say that my safety concern about, I had no idea that they were going to do that. I thought it was going to be land-based with grass in it and not an effort to really drain it other than
It'll
the
still
slope.
hold some water.
I know it's going to
All
hold
the
water.
tanker ponds do.
I know.
You're holding it now, but
Well,
I also wanted to address
But I don't think it'll be worse than what it is right now.
You had
And you've
some-
answered that.
I think that's-
Because it came up, it
And that was,
wasn't.
that was literally the first question I started asking was, okay, what about this?
Yeah, and that was our first concern when we started this whole
You bet,
conversation.
absolutely.
Neil had made a suggestion about, or a question about, you asked about the slope on the east end of the pond, the east side of the pond next to the taxiway,
Right.
near the taxiway. And Brad did get an answer from that. Yeah. That slope could be reduced.
What he's talking about, when we have.
So it'll be shallow up by the taxiway and deeper towards
It'll
the,
be a more gentle slope.
More gentle slope.
so you'll redirect that creek to some
No,
extent.
it's a 4-to-1 slope now.
Oh,
And we were talking about the optics of it, from approaching the runway.
oh,
What do you see it? I mean, and that's important.
sure.
And so you're seeing more of flat area if you flatten out
I
that.
understand, yeah.
And that would require calculations, I guess, what you've done.
Any more discussions before we put this to a vote? Have a roll call vote, please.
Johnson, I guess we have a motion, right?
We need a motion.
I don't know. I can't read it. I don't see a motion, but.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve or not to approve the detention pond in the designated area on the north side of the airport.
I'll make the motion that we approve the detention pond in the designated area as described by the mayor and the staff.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay,
Okay.
roll call vote,
You want a roll call vote?
please.
Okay.
Yes, we have that.
Johnson,
I'm going to reluctantly say yes.
Collier,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Schoonover,
Yes.
Willoughby,
Yes.
Even though we all want to say
The vote passes.
That's true.
I mean, I hate to say it that way, but I want to say no, but I can't vote no on it.
Well, we will, I appreciate this very much. I know it was a very hard vote because some of you the volume was really low on that vote. But I have as much desire, I can't say as much, I have as much desire as you because this is your baby and this is what this is what you're charged with. But I will tell you that I fully support access off Emma. I'm not sure a terminal's the right thing, but that's not my decision.
I'm not
But
sure.
if it turns out being a terminal, we'll figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah,
We'll figure out a way to get a taxiway built. But 3 or 4 years from now, or longer, when that's finally decided, then we'll be able to make the adjustments.
No, he just said he was. He promised he'd stay.
Well, I don't know if I will or not, but I'm gonna try and be for 4 more years. So,
We have to speed up then.
but we'll.
It's up to you to make sure he gets the votes.
I do appreciate it, and
And if there can be something, Mayor, as a concentrated effort from the city itself to put a line item in for mitigation, safety, I sure would appreciate
I
that.
think look, Joel, and for different reasons, we're gonna have to address the geese problem in our parks too.
Right.
For obvious different reasons, not safety reasons necessarily. So people could slip and fall right now, some of that. But we, I'm hearing about the border collie thing. I'm hearing, we're gonna have to see. And I guess we'll kind of see what Bentonville does too. I know they're looking at different stuff. And let's see.
They've got a lot bigger problem than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And
let's
theirs
see
is
how
about
it
to get
works.
bigger.
Yeah, they're only making theirs worse.
Yep.
But if geese or birds are a problem,
We have 2 more
we'll
issues.
help address those.
I do like what Steve said about the city's commitment to us. It'd be nice if we were in the budget somewhere, and not just when we come, but
So
some
another
consideration.
request, I think, moving forward would be if we can be kept abreast of the things in the city pertaining to the airport.
Yeah, that's fair, Greg. I will make a better effort at doing that. I hope you'll make an effort too, because we have the same problem with a lot of our residents who don't hear things. We're putting it out the best way we know how. I did not put this out the best way I knew how, and for that, again, I'm sorry. But I hope y'all will pay attention to council.
We can
when
choose to
council-
involve ourselves more closely with the
When
council.
council approves, a plan to do detention, then I assume too much sometimes, and I should have made sure y'all are better aware of it. And I'm not sure my staff, I'm not sure Wyman and Brad did as good a job as they could do either. So we're gonna do better.
I just didn't know if there's a way to, from the city council meeting to the airport commission meeting,
Right.
for those things to be relayed. Okay?
Okay. I'm pleased to see 3 councilmen here today. So-
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
All right, so
Okay.
moving on with our meeting, James, talk to us about the roof on the shop building.
Well, during that storm a couple weeks back, it actually ripped the roof off our old shop building. So our lowest quote is $11,100 to replace the roof.
Versus about 30,000, I think, is the highest bid.
Right, 25,000.
And have those been compared side by side? Are we getting the same thing for?
Yeah, we had them all quote for that membrane roof. So what if they didn't, that's not what we asked for.
And what kind of guarantee?
25-year.
Both highest to lowest, or all of them, I guess?
You're right.
I'd like to
What
ask,
was that bid again?
11,100.
And that's just, it didn't do any structure damage, right?
No.
It's just a membrane?
Right.
And how many square feet?
Not sure what the total
it's
is.
not a very big building.
No.
I'd like to ask the question, the value of that structure on the airport. Is it bringing any revenue?
No,
Is it,
Do we need it?
does the city, do we need it?
we have
You
the,
put detention there?
we have the shop
Only you and Brad are there together.
The museum has been using it for a shop to build displays and
Shiloh?
exhibits and stuff like
Yes.
that.
I guess my question is the value of the building justify the expense?
We don't get any revenue off of it.
We've got a $10,000 deductible on our insurance per occurrence. We
So-
lost
So the city's gonna spend $10,000,
How much?
and we're
cost
gonna
is
get
it?
$1,000 from,
well, we also lost a canopy off the senior center, which will be about 3,000. And we had some other damage that may run up 4,000 or 5,000. And the deductible will be split between the claims that we filed.
my question is the value of the building. Would we be better off with the building gone and the property access and availability to the airport for development or anything else? That's my question.
It is a prime place for construction of a hangar.
Yep.
That's the other thing, because I know there's been talk about hangars, and I know that's a thing. My question is, if that were to happen, why would we waste money putting a roof on a building that's worth $15,000? I don't know what that building's worth. You couldn't replace it for 15 if you had to
It's
tear it
probably
down.
got a negative value.
It probably does.
It's just a block building.
So my question is, why do we put a roof on it when we can tear it down?
Would AMJ tear it down for us for the same price they tore the other ones down?
You probably spend about as much money to tear it down as what you would to fix it.
Right.
But then if you get ready to
It's
build
got
something,
no
you're gonna tear it down again. You're gonna tear it down. That's what I'm
And
saying.
it's
I
gonna have
think
a new roof.
A lot of times you're ready to build it, it's got a negative value,
Right.
because you got it.
That's why we brought it to you today.
Well, but can you not still submit that as a claim?
I don't know if you,
Demolishing
What
we
would
it?
have
that, can you buy that money?
replacement cost insurance and it's a self-insured pool, and I haven't ever explored that possibility of filing a
I'd sure
claim on
like to
something you
explore
don't
that
repair.
possibility.
I
It
would say
seems
that
like
would
to me
be,
it's a liability to the airport.
I would say that would
And
be a good
spending
option.
money
to-
on it is not
if you
necessarily.
Pull everything that was damaged together and
Is that municipal league?
Yes.
You think we can?
No, it's municipal league. I have no idea.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, we can ask.
Municipal league is a
Self-insured.
funded pool.
So
So is there anything in that building right now that's getting damaged?
Shiloh Museum has some props in there. I think they went ahead and parked them, didn't they?
They got tools and stuff in there right now. They got them covered up.
Everything's covered up, so
Right.
if we wait to get a decision based off the insurance company, nothing's gonna be affected by that.
We're not gonna cause additional damage to the building or anything, should we? I'm just making sure I'm on the same page, but.
I just question the value of actually spending money there for that, whether it's gonna be torn down or
Yeah,
the utility of
A
it,
lot better than tearing it down.
and to the future of the airport, it might be better off with.
Why don't we table that until our next meeting, and we'll get some information back from Wyman from the insurance company, and be able to make a better decision based off of that.
It's just a block, it shouldn't cost much to tear it down.
No.
You can almost go
Craig,
back
I'll
on
make
it.
That's just what I would say, take the city truck over there.
Is there any
We'll take a look at what
Next
it's gonna
meeting.
cost to tear it down.
We have a motion on the floor.
I second it.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to table.
Adam, give us an update on the airport CIP report, please.
Sure, I'm gonna pass these around, so we'll take one and pass it down for me. I'll give you a project update while that's going on, just one of each. So the concrete apron hard stain is complete, almost. That's a picture of what it looks like from the asphalt apron right here. There was one slab that cracked on us. It's about 30 or so total slabs, one big crack, and so they demoed that one out. It's just the whole water right now, so if he's looking for a place to swim, we got a spot for him on the apron.
You know I've heard a guy.
You're an ass.
So
And that's recorded, isn't it?
What was they gonna do with the other?
Can't believe you said that.
they're gonna take care of that too, next to it, yeah, a little spall. So hopefully once the weather turns, we'll get that slab replaced. The only other thing to note that I want to bring up to y'all today is, I don't know how well you can see these pictures. The existing asphalt we tied into had some low spots in it, and you can see in a few spots we have a little bit of water that holds up against our concrete. If you remember the original plan, we actually cut into the asphalt a little bit to get some of that out that was just off the edge by the grass. There are a few spots. These pictures were taken the morning after the rain that night, so they're pretty small. But we did ask for the contractor for a quote to fix them, if we wanted to fix them. There are 3 ones. The biggest one is back there in the background. Then it gets smaller as you go into the foreground. That one's almost nothing there. To fix all 3, it was $3,000 to do. We have about $2,000 in savings so far in the budget on the cost of the grant, and so we hit all 3. It'd be about $1,000 of additional cost to you as the airport based on what you had budgeted for the project. So I wanted to bring it to y'all and see if that's something y'all want to go ahead and undertake, just fixing all 3 of them. If we want to stick out the budget, we could just fix the worst 2 and just leave the other one sitting
Wouldn't that
there.
be nice and just do all 3 for 2?
Say, was it a big one offer?
Does the
Well, let's
city
do 3 of them
have
for
to
$2,000.
That's the deal.
Say that again, sorry.
I just was wondering if the city street department couldn't go over there and send a couple guys in a tamping thing and a truckload of stuff. And would that work? Or
You
is
would
that-
need to cut it since it's a low spot. The goal is to cut it out. We're just going to replace it with concrete.
Oh.
You know, you need to really go to your high spot and just make a flat grade as opposed to that little rut that's there. It could be just from plain wheels sitting there. You know, over time, causes a little bit of depression. So we're going to take it out and put concrete in them. Like I said, we could take the worst 2 out and just be even money if we wanted to, and just leave the 3rd one, which was about a square foot total, the next day in the morning. So.
If we left the one, Daniel, what would that impact on any aircraft parking, movement, anything of that nature on a morning like this morning, after precipitation of 25 degrees?
I
Ice. Oh, ice?
Yeah.
For a large aircraft, it's negligible. For a small aircraft, they might slide a bit.
You said it's a 1 foot, about a 1 by 1 square, that smallest one. This was the
What's the biggest
around
one?
The biggest one's probably closer to 3 by 5. Yeah.
What's the probable damage of the water? Is it standing right next to the concrete?
It is.
Are they just gonna fill it?
So will the water seep in there affect the?
Cut out the asphalt and fill it with concrete straight to get rid of the depression.
So the water seeping between the asphalt and the concrete could damage the concrete ramp with freezing.
It actually doesn't even sit on the edge. It sits just off the edge of the concrete, so the water doesn't even seep in the concrete.
So it's
we have
not-
joints around
Right
the
after
concrete.
rain, there's pond,
There's all over the ramps
all
as
over.
well, so that's why I say
It's not a big deal.
if you look in the background, you see about 4 more.
You're just
on the ramp.
gonna move it, that's all you're gonna do.
That's why I'm trying to justify the expense.
James
for-
was out there at the squid.
If it were going to damage the new concrete from freezing and thawing, it's much more of an issue than.
Now, we have the grant money though, so if you want to go ahead and fix up what you have in the grant amount, just take care of some, maybe the worst spot or the other 2, we can definitely do that. And
Without any additional cost to us
Without
or
additional
the
cost to
city
you.
or anybody.
Right.
And then where does that grant money go if we don't use it? Use it or lose it in
Back to
2
the
years?
state.
Back to the
Yeah.
state. Yeah, use it.
Fix it.
Fix it.
Use it.
So we need a motion for that?
I move that we fix it to the
Second.
extent of the grant.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
All right.
Motion passes. Thank you. You'll take care of that for us?
I will. And then CIP, we'll talk about that just real quickly. You have a couple documents in front of you. Every year we go through this capital improvements plan with the FAA, where we tell the FAA what your planned projects are for the next 5 years. Just a quick recap. You actually have 6 years on here. You have our current fiscal year, which is 2020, which is the first few sets of rows there, and then 2021 through 2025, okay? Like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, your planned project for this fiscal year, which is 2020, which started October 1st, is the design of the East Taxiway Extension, which takes you from the current spot on the Northeast Taxiway all the way to the runway 18 in. So it's about a 2,000-foot extension of the East Taxiway, past the ILS and past the AWAS. We would design that starting this fiscal year, so you get a grant in the summer to do that for design. We would design it, and it would shelve till right now planned for 2022. Now we're going to go ahead and design it now because there's a chance of some supplemental funding in 2021 where it could come up a year. And so let's go ahead and design it, put it on the shelf, and then we're ready if somebody's available to bid it real quickly. But it's programmed for 2022 right now for construction. That's about $3 million of construction cost to build that. So that is what the FAA has programmed for you for the next 3 years. Past that point, we've been showing basically the first phase, which is the taxiway to the proposed Northwest Development Area. Knowing this discussion was going to happen before me this morning, I've just held a placeholder there. I think it says ASG project design 2023 and ASG project construction 2024. And that's why I printed off the other map, which is that 20-year outlook for you to see if that's something you want to hold, that Northwest development for now, and continue showing on CIP for future years, or if you want to show something else, possibly opening up a taxiway to hangar area number 3A, which is on the northeast side of the airport, or even going down to that southwest property that you developed a few years ago and started to build a taxiway that way to open up development there. So you kind of have 3 spots you can open development up, continue focusing on the northwest portion, look at northeast, look at southwest. This is not something the FAA is going to look at funding today, but it's always good to let the FAA know what you're thinking your next steps are after the East Taxiway.
And they could potentially change.
Oh, it could definitely change. It could definitely change. I just want to get y'all's pulse for, do you still want to show it to the northwest, or do you want to look at the Air Out 265 or the southwest corner of the airfield for your next possible development area?
What's your deadline to file?
November 10. So
yes.
Like I said, I'll show whatever you want to show. It can change. I just want to get a feel for what y'all's thoughts were. I know you had a lot to talk about in the first half of this meeting, so probably bad timing.
I would say stay the course.
Yeah. Easy enough. Yeah. We already have a program like that in the CIP.
Waste your time to redo something.
Yeah, just leave it stand.
Okay.
Anything
Anything else,
we'll
Ed?
do? And so that'll be, we'll still show the design of that then in 2023, which would be the taxiway and apron to get to that property that y'all acquired over the last year. And then we will show construction of that in 2024, and then we'll adjust as we go.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Any old business? Comments from commissioners?
I've got one question, Adam.
Yes, sir.
On the construction of the detention pond, the excavation, any impact on day-to-day airport operations?
No, and
Equipment's going to be there, any impact at all?
There will not. We'll work with FTN and Brad in the city. We will have to airspace the equipment that's in the area. They'll be flagged, but they'll be far enough away from your AOA, which is your air operations area, so it won't have any immediate impact on your operations. But we will let the FAA know what's going on, because it is on property that's identified by the city for the airport, and so we have to go through their approvals too for airspace.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I do want to say, obviously, this was a difficult meeting. I think we, as a commission, we looked past the airport for the betterment of the city, and I think that was a good move all the way around.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay. We're adjourned.